The other part of Raypak is that, they created what's called the ribbon burner. And the ribbon burner is something that's on our digital heater or atmospheric. A lot of people know it as an RP2100, and they call the new heater the RP2200. Rheem actually purchased us in the mid-'80s. So Rheem was trying to develop their own burner, and they noticed that Raypak had this special ribbon burner that no one else had. And it's actually kind of slope down so it creates an even burn all the way across the burners, and the flame doesn't actually touch the burner itself. It has about a 1-inch lift off, and then you have your flame, typically a 4-inch flame. So Rheem was like, go get us that burner, and they said, well, they're not going to sell us the burner, we got to buy the company. And so Rheem bought the company.
This is episode 224 with Justin and Gavin of Raypak. Enjoy!
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
All right, well, I want to give you a big warm welcome to Justin and Gavin here from Raypak. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
So if you want to kind of just go down a little bit of each of your careers, Justin, we can start with you, kind of how you got into the pool industry, what led you here to Raypak.
Yeah, I've been in the pool industry as long as I've been in Raypak. So I started Raypak about 10 years ago. Started in the mailroom, worked my way into marketing, was doing a lot of graphic work on our brochures and stuff like that, and just started digging in and learning things, as I'm reading and making these edits, and just kept asking questions of engineering, and then got to this point about 9 years, and then made that transition into the specialist. And I'd have to say of the two sides of the business that we have, I really enjoy the pool side. I think it's interesting.
Good answer.
It's a cool industry. My dad was a roofer, so I'm familiar with like the trade background and working hard and all that, and so I have a lot of appreciation for the pool industry, and it's the heating side is very interesting. So, but that's my history and how I got into the pool industry. Not as interesting, I'd say, as Gavin's.
So you went from mailroom to your position?
Yeah.
That's
just
a
like
big,
the movies.
big difference.
Yeah. I was shocked that we had a mailroom. Actually, it was interesting.
Right? That is unusual for a business. That's a big company, and definitely that's definitely like the movies, just like you said.
Yeah.
What'd you do before the pool industry?
Oh, all over. Mainly within graphic design. Before I had worked for like a screen printer doing printing, embroidery, stuff like that, and then all over. I mean, I've done everything: retail, food service, but really mainly graphic design has been I'd say the backbone.
Did you go to school for that, or
I did self-taught? Self-taught. I went to school for film.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Film's pretty awesome too.
Yeah. It's
similar, I guess. You're cutting and editing and doing some of the same functionality, but
yeah,
different product, I guess.
Yeah, that was a good segue for me into marketing, because they found out I could do video, and so like, hey, we want to make video. So I did quite a bit. They were, they're good. I think a lot of them, people still say they like watching them just because they're technical and they can sit there and figure out how to change one of our power events from 240 to 120 and vice versa. So little things like that. It's interesting how much value those can be, for someone who's trying to figure something out in the field.
Yeah, that's fun. I have some video editing and stuff in my background too, and that's really the only reason I was sort of successful editing podcasts when we first started, because I understood how to do it. But it's funny when people know that you can edit video, how much they start asking you to edit video.
It's like, hey, you got a truck? You want to help me move?
Yeah. Same concept, huh? I've done a lot of different video editing, and it's much more difficult than audio. You got visual, so
yeah.
But yeah, everybody, once they learn how to do it, it's like, can you come shoot this and edit it? Very cool. That's a awesome transition for you.
Oh yeah.
How about you, Gavin?
Well, it was a dark and stormy night, and no, it was a lot different scene than that. So I was a swimmer in high school, and what's a swimmer going to do when they get to the age of working other than being a lifeguard? So I started out, in the mid 80s being a lifeguard, and that kind of got me into pool management. So I'm from the DC area originally, and so we have lifeguard companies that basically soup to nuts. They get out there and clean the pools in the spring and provide lifeguards in the summer, and then do some postseason work, renovations, things like that. So I really kind of cut my teeth in the pool management aspect of the business, starting in '85 and really taking that until '95. So in '95, I went to work for a competitive manufacturer from us as a district sales manager in the Mid-Atlantic states, and did that for 4 years. And then had an opportunity to go back into the pool management business in '96 as starting my own business. So we, got in and started as a lifeguard business, and then we got into renovations. We got into building pools. So I got into building commercial pools, built one residential pool in my tenure, and I'm actually building my pool. I now live in Florida, so my wife wrangled me into building my own pool. So I'm doing that now. So I was in business for myself probably until, say, from 2000 to 2014 or 15. Sold my business, kind of like you did, Tyler, and went to work for Paddock Pools, who was a large commercial builder in the DC market, and actually they're kind of throughout the country, but this one was particularly in Rockville, Maryland, and learned a lot from a gentleman there, Mark Wilkinson, really nice guy. So he taught me a lot, and so much that I left there after being a sales manager. And that was probably around 2015, 16, and then went to work for Raypak. And so I went to work for Raypak as a district sales manager. So it was a lot like the guy who went to sleep for 100 years and woke up, right? I go back out just like I did 10 or 15 years prior. I'm meeting the same people at distribution, and hey, I'm back, that kind of thing. It wasn't really as big of a party as I thought there was going to be for myself, but that's okay. So I was a district sales manager for 3 years at Raypak, and then I got promoted to regional sales manager. So I've been doing that for the last 4 years. So currently manage the East Coast. So I go from Maine down to Key West, and relocated from the DC area, as I said, to Florida.
Very cool. I liked how you call it pool management, because not a lot of people have that background into that.
The vernacular.
Yeah, it's definitely different. People call it pool service or a different thing, but pool management is definitely the commercial side, which you don't meet a whole lot of people that started in that background. I mean, you do meet swimmers that went to lifeguards, but not down that whole path. So
yeah, well, I became I got tired of sitting around the pool all day, so I became a supervisor. So I oversaw like 10 other pools. So I would drive around and check on the guards and make sure they're doing what they needed to do, and then creating a relationship with the property managers. So I became the kind of intermediary between the company and the staff and the customer. And then from there, I became a regional in the pool management world, which meant I oversaw like 50 pools, and I had like maybe 3, 4, 5 supervisors who also oversaw their pools. So that's kind of, I kind of worked my way kind of from the mailroom, but my mailroom was a lifeguard, and then literally, scrubbing toilets, scrubbing pools, doing whatever it took to kind of escalate myself, in that from lifeguard to supervisor to regional. I owned a pool management company, and then just kind of, from there. So learned a lot of different things. Usually learn things the hard way, especially in construction and new construction. So we got into building pools on high rises. So I built pools on 15th floor, 20th floor. Unfortunately, no one gives you a golden handbook to do that. So you learn things the hard way by trial and error. And so we did that. So that kind of gets me to where I am today.
That's very cool. I think a lot of people forget that that's a whole actual, side of this industry and business. And there's so many different careers within that piece that, it's definitely a different avenue that people can take, once you have gone through this pool service kind of career of, and then sometimes it feels like a dead end, but there's a whole nother side to the business when you can get, better at water chemistry, and you can start developing different, I think, career path for yourself down that road if that's something you like and enjoy. So what it really gives you, I think, is a super understanding of water chemistry, which I'm sure you appreciate with now the heaters, right? Because
the LSI.
Yep, the
I follow the LSI.
100%. So we just did an episode with Eric Knight of Arendos.
Yeah, I know Eric. He's a good guy. He worked at Paddock also. He
did.
Was
he's also a swimmer, and
he's a big time swimmer at Mason. I went to Mason, so he was he worked for the evacuator side of Paddock, which I know we're not talking about Paddock, but it's a pretty cool product because it removes chloramines from the natatoriums. So anyway.
Yeah, his career is interesting, but yeah, Paddock makes its name on here quite a bit.
Yeah,
and it was big in Arizona too. So
hey, you used to have to be a movie star to have a paddock pool.
Yeah, so. That's true.
Now you can be a pool guy like me and have one.
Very cool. I like that history. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So let's dive into Raypak a little bit. Can you share with us how everything got started?
Yeah. So Raypak was actually started in, and I think there's some internal discussion on whether it's 47 or 1948, but by a gentleman named Al Wattel, and he founded it in essentially his garage, and they focused on the hydronic side of things. So you're talking about boilers, space heating, and took that business and grew it to a point, and opened up manufacturing in like 56.
Started in his garage.
Yeah,
literally,
started in his garage. Yeah. And they were one of the first ones who were adopted like fin tube technology when it came to the heat exchanger. And so, but in about 1953, he moved into the pool space. And so that's, we went from 48 to 53, and that's when we started producing, our first pool heaters. And as Gavin had mentioned, you're talking about essentially hydronic technology. You got a loop. It's an open loop because it's exposed to, the elements, but you have a one closed loop of water, and you're just cycling it back through the system and cleaning it, versus hydronic, it's usually pre-cleaned and pressurized. So you don't have to worry about, deteriorating the heat exchanger of the boiler. You've got the chemicals. So
it would be a closed loop versus an open loop. So
exactly.
Closed loop is you're typically running, some kind of clarify, like glycol. You can run glycol in a closed loop. You can run distilled water in a closed loop. Anything that will not kind of manifest itself and be really harsh, to the heat exchanger system. And then, nowadays with pool heaters, with commercial pool heaters, we'll have a closed loop and an open loop, because we'll do a closed loop that generates the heat, and then we'll heat transfer into a tube. And the tube actually then puts the heat into the water as the water passes by it. So it's an open and closed loop system. Raypak nowadays goes, gas heaters from 50,000 BTUs up to 4 million BTUs. And I think on the hydronic side, we go to 6 million BTUs.
We can,
So, pretty confident we are the only manufacturer to have that extensive a breadth in the product line to do that. And then on heat pumps, pretty wide range too. Heat pumps are electric, but we talk about them in BTUs because that's what everybody relates it to when they start sizing up heaters for their pool. So in heat pumps, we go from a 30,000 BTU heat pump all the way up to a 170, and we're looking at going beyond that as well. The other part of Raypak is that, they created what's called the ribbon burner. And the ribbon burner is something that's on our digital heater or atmospheric. A lot of people know it as an RP2100, and they call the new heater the RP2200, and that's fine. Rheem actually purchased us in the mid 80s, so in about 85. So Rheem was trying to develop their own burner, and they noticed that Raypak had this special ribbon burner that no one else had, and it's actually kind of sloped down, so it creates an even burn all the way across the burners, and the flame doesn't actually touch the burner itself. It has about maybe a 1-inch liftoff, and then you have your flame, typically a 4-inch flame. So Rheem is like, go get us that burner, and they said, well, they're not going to sell us the burner. We got to buy the company, and so Rheem bought the company. So we've been owned by Ream, which people think it's a new thing. It's not. We've been owned by them since 1985. So long-standing relationship there.
Yeah. And that relationship and has, I'd say, flourished maybe probably about the last 6 to 7 years. We really got a lot closer with our parent company, and that's opened a lot of doors for us to try new technologies and bring new things to market that I think we've been stagnant up into to that point. You know, we had a really great product and we rested our laurels on that product, you know, and it's still a great product. I mean, people still love the RP2100. People call it the Series 22, call it the digital gas. That's the atmospheric and low NOx heater that we have, and it's still a great product. And you know, we've been wanting to continue to innovate in the industry, and so that's kind of where within like recent history, Raypak has evolved. You know, our capabilities and the relationships that we have with our, you know, sister companies and our parent company.
And to our advantage, we are a privately held business, which is few and far between, even nowadays in the pool business. So it's a family-owned business. We were one of the first ones that were purchased, you know, into that family of companies, and they've since gone on to buy wall-hung electric hot water heaters for your house. They do gas-fired, wall-hung, high-efficiency hot water heaters for your house. We have, you know, we have a huge contract with Home Depot. Rheem makes all their hot water heaters. May have seen the NASCAR that runs on Sunday. I think Chris is actually the driver's doing pretty well. I think he's in the playoffs, so good for him. But it leads a lot of advantages for us when we talk about innovation in Raypak, that we've been able to look at our other companies and pull some resources from the other companies. If it's a resource like a product, an idea. So our our gas heaters have an anode on them, and it's called Protect Shield. Well, we took that technology from our hot water heaters, because hot water heaters have anodes in them. So we integrated that, you know, into our heat exchanger, which has been great for protecting us against the corrosive environment that salt generators, you know, create or do, or chlorine generators. So that's certainly an innovation that wouldn't have come to us unless we weren't with, you know, the group of people that we're with. And we also have engineers and quality people like that come and help us out. And we do the same with them also. Raypak, our facility in Oxnard is Ream's number 2 most efficient plant in their entire company. So that's really, really high testimony for how much Raypak cares about quality.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we dive deeper into the boilers and how Raypak transitioned from those into pool and spa, as well as discuss the all-new AVIA. This episode is brought to you by Leslie's. The pool industry has seen its ups and downs for the past few years, but Leslie's has been there through it all to provide you with best-in-class service, competitive pricing, and available inventory on products you use every day. Leslie's is determined to be your go-to resource for building your business, and they will partner with you to help save both time and money. Visit your local Leslie's store today. To learn more about their exclusive pool trade professional programs, check out episode 151 and 165 of the podcast. So take me back through the boiler transition a little bit. I think that's kind of an interesting avenue that probably isn't talked about much. That's where it all started, right? So what is a boiler and a space heater? You know, what does that mean? And then how did that kind of go into pool heating?
Yeah, so Raypak, you know, again, being founded, creating boilers, that was bread and butter. And I'd say, you know, there's a lot of things that Raypak has done throughout the history to kind of modernize the boiler. I think we introduced a vertical boiler. Before that, everything was horizontal when you're talking about heating. And so being able to take the large footprint of like a 1 million and shrinking it down into a very small footprint, something that can fit through a doorway. We've done a lot of innovations just within the industry to be able to bring the retrofit market a lot of value to the retrofit market, because you're talking about, you've got these big high rises. How do you swap out a boiler? These things are huge, and how do you bring in something that's going to match the BTU output that you need? And so, as a company, we were always innovating with the footprint, with the space, and how do we, one, bring size down, how do we bring efficiency up? And so that's one thing that we've done. The boiler side's fairly interesting. I mean, you're talking, like Gavin was saying, you're talking about it. You've got a closed loop system. Your water's treated, pressurized, and you're running the water through the system. It's heating up in the boiler, then running out to the building, and then using radiant heat to heat the space of the building. So it's used in hospitals. It's used in multifamily dwellings, schools, universities, manufacturing, you name it. And it's, I'd say, probably pretty big as well in
the Northeast.
Yeah, the Northeast, they tend to use it for like snow melts and stuff like that. So you want
we're in car. We have our boilers on car washes.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We have our hydronic boilers. This is pretty interesting. Tito's, if anybody knows what that is. So our boilers are on Tito's. So we're heating up the water for them so they can make the vodka. But it's all sorts of different things like that: car washes, Tito's, hospitals, hotels, apartments,
laundromats. Yeah,
typically large quantity spaces that require a lot of heat. That's who's going to have a boiler. It's pretty uncommon nowadays for a house to have a boiler, but in the Northeast, some people do it. And if you did do a boiler, you can do like indirect heat exchanger to your pool. So if you're using a boiler and hydronic technology, what you'll do is you'll have a solenoid. It actually pushes out hot water to a heat swapper. The indirect heat exchanger will actually, the pool water will pass over the heat exchanger from the heated water from the boiler, and then that returns to the pool with some kind of an aquastat or something like that, so you won't scorch anyone, because it's very hot water. Sure. That we're capable of. So there are systems like that we can do, even so we can work in conjunction with boilers to heat a pool. Some people use plated heat exchangers, other people use just indirect heat exchangers, but it does happen, and there's a fair amount in the commercial world.
That's such a cool thing. It's such a large product and so many moving pieces to it. And it's cool. It's a cool background to have, going from that to what you've done in the pool space. So
we have this configurator actually. So when a commercial job originally goes out to bid, the people that want to generate a quote, they will go into our software tool and they'll be able to build the unit, and we'll actually be able to provide them a quote and then hold the quote for however long, and then it'll have to be requoted, if it goes beyond a certain time frame. The program will ask you for all the configurations that you're looking at. Is it PVC venting? Is it B vent? Is it stainless steel? Whatever the cases may be, all those questions are asked you. CSDs, control safety devices. Whose CSDs is it? Is it, are you in Illinois or are you in Virginia? So there's all these boiler codes that we try and help them stay in on. And that translates to commercial pool heaters, because commercial pool heaters have to be built per CSD. So each one has their own control safety devices. Commercial pool heaters would have in an environment that changes temperature a lot, you'll need to have cold water run. So the cold water run actually automates itself, because I don't want to get too technical here, but the delta T between the influent and the effluent temperatures, if that's too far off, you're going to create too much condensate, which is going to ruin the heater. So a cold water run system is constantly monitoring itself. So let's say someone like me in 1985 as a lifeguard, I don't really know a lot about pool heaters, that's for sure. So I really shouldn't be touching the pool heaters. Right. So what we would do actually as service people in the commercial world, we would pull the handles off of the valves, because the two ways you control the condensate, the delta T temperatures, are cold water run, which is automated, or an H bypass, which is manual. So if you're in the DC market where temperatures fluctuate a lot between day and night, you want a cold water run. If you're in Florida, where it's pretty much going to be the same temperature all the time, you can get away with an H bypass and then just pull off the cinch valve handle. So that's kind of how those worlds collide. And there's a lot of hand holding in that too. But we have, on the commercial pool side, we have Adam Michaleski, who's actually from the Arizona area, and he helps us with 2/3 of the country is his direct responsibility, and so he manages that space, the commercial pool space. And then TJ Redmond, who lives in the Orlando area, he handles pretty much the East Coast. Anything that touches the Atlantic, TJ's in charge of. So anytime someone comes to us and says, "Hey, we need help sizing this," or "Can you make a site visit?" We're there on all the startups for all the heaters, so we don't charge for that. They just call us up when they're ready. We'll do a site inspection, make sure they have all their sensors in the right place, valves in the right place, power, pumps, all that stuff. And then TJ will come back out, or Adam will come back out on startup just to make sure everything fires off appropriately.
That's very cool. It's much different on the commercial side. I don't know I don't have a huge commercial background, so it's always very.
It's a lot. I mean, to the point where when Raypak builds a heater, they're actually taking pictures of the heater along the way, because there's so many different components. If a heater lands on a job site and we didn't build it the right way, we want to avoid that if at all possible. Not just because of cost. I mean, that is a factor, but because of the sheer fact we're trying to support the installer, and we don't want to give them any heartache. We want it to show up when we say it's going to show up. We want them to work the way it's was supposed to work. So that's what we're all working toward.
And that kind of links to the fact that we have an in-house applications team that will work hand in hand with the engineer, the architect, contractor through the process to make sure that they're speccing the right product, boiler, pool heater, water heater, because we do domestic hot water as well on the commercial side. So that's all your water that's coming out of the sinks, faucets, stuff like that. But they'll handhold that product or products through an application process to make sure that the venting is going to work, all the plumbing is going to work, all the combustion air or gas, all that stuff is going to work. Because you can cascade up to like 8 of our commercial units at a time, and so if you don't have the gas flowing in just right so that each unit can pull the right amount of gas they need, or the same thing with like the venting, if they're able to all push the flue gases out or pull the water in just right, you're going to have essentially like a lopsided car. It's going to wear out on one spot, and then it's going to be uneven, and then you're going to have issues across all your products. So having that throughout the process before you get to even breaking ground or installing product or even ordering product is essential. And that's just one of the many things that Raypak has historically offered to customers, is making sure that the buying process is not as daunting as it can be sometimes, especially when you're talking about $30,000, $50,000 products when you start getting into the commercial side. So
Yeah, the manufacturing side of that all is like my favorite piece of it. Pool Chasers has given us access to a lot of that in the back end that most people don't get to see, and that stuff's so fun to watch the process in those plants, as I'm sure you guys have been a part of and seen. And there's so much that goes into developing these things, but people forget. You just go to distribution, buy a heater, and plumb it in. There's so much to it on the back end, and it's so cool to be a part of that and get to see that process.
Yeah, those big commercial heaters are built kind of as they're ordered basis, because they're all so unique, and they're all built individually. So it's not like a residential heater where we're building hundreds of them in a day. We're building only a few of these at a time, but the orders are smaller, so we're able to keep up with the demand.
Sure. And how did that? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think you could, with the 2 different products, definitely lose that sense of what goes into it, because like if you could just pull it right off the shelf, you walk into distribution and pull a gas heater right off the shelf, you really lose that process. And on our pool side, it's an interesting manufacturing process, whether it's pool, residential or commercial, boilers, water heaters, pool heaters, everything is live fired or tested, make sure that there's no gas leaks, anything like that. Everything is dialed into the settings that unit is built for. Obviously the commercial side, they're really dialing it in, like if there's an elevation that this unit is supposed to meet, Like all of that is pre-configured and tested at that. So that way when it pulls onto the job site, they pull out of the box, it's ready for, Colorado, Denver, whatever it is, whatever that those needs
Altitudes,
are. Like Gavin was saying, like whatever the CSD, requirements are, Illinois, Texas, you're already ready to go. Now with the gas heaters, we can produce a lot of them, but the market's going to know what they need. So if it's Colorado, they already know, hey, we need high elevation units. We have a low NOx in the California market, so that's really where your low NOx market is now in like Utah and some parts of Texas. But it's interesting. It would be great for you guys to actually get a chance to come to the factory, and you'd find the process pretty interesting.
Yeah,
that happens.
Definitely, that would be fun. I'll have to try to make that happen. But yeah, how did Raypak go then from making those type of boilers and commercial heaters down to the residential side of things?
Well, the first heaters that came out for pool were all mechanical stats. You really wouldn't know the exact temperature because you're just you have a blue and a red as you're dialing around, and you're kind of guessing or taking a Sharpie and putting, what feels good.
Yeah.
Depending on how warm or cold it is outside. So, from there, then the iterations went to a digital heater, where we actually had a readout, and then we were able to provide codes if there were issues. As to Raypak's, maybe the only manufacturer in the pool industry that provides you with accurate safety caution verbiage on the screen. So it'll tell you high limit 1, high limit 2, pressure switch, any kind of rollout, things like that. So you're actually going to read it on the screen instead of having a code that you have to go look up or count blinking lights or anything like that. It's a lot more user friendly. And people have really gotten to work on Raypaks and be able to do a lot of things with them, pretty quickly. So, in the beginning, it was a big deal if you wanted to convert the headers from a right side or right hand connection to a left hand connection. So picking up and actually rotating the heat exchanger, and then Raypak figured, well, you know what? Why don't we make the heat exchanger so that we can just pop off the right header and put it on the left header and vice versa. And so we kind of did that, and that was an innovation at that time. And then we were using, we used ferrous metals, on the unit, but we were like, you know what? Let's do a stainless steel bottom. Let's try and make this thing last, much longer. Make it a 13 to 15 year heater. So we did that. We use, very close to being the first one to have a polymer header, so the heater wasn't as heavy, right? I don't know if we were the first or not to have like a, almost like a fire brick. We were using actual brick, and then it went to, some type of, almost like a cloth interior, where it was fire retardant, and that lightened the heater up immensely. All those iterations, and then having a power vent on an indoor installation to today, coming out with, our product, which is the AVIA, which is our new small footprint, has all the bells and whistles that homeowners, the VOC. So we did a lot of VOC, a lot of voice of customer on, what do you want it to look like? How big do you want it to be? What features do you want it to have? And then the project managers get to walk that backwards. They get to take all these things that everybody said, it could be, we want it to look like this or that or whatever, but then to come out with the actual product is a bit of a process, and to make sure it works and functions like we want it to function. And went through a few years of testing, beta testing. We kept the straight heat exchanger design, which is really unique to our small footprint heater, because we are the only ones to have straight tubes, meaning that if there, for some reason, they were to get clogged or scaled, you could actually service the heat exchanger and put it back into work. We've always been a company that stood by servicers. So we've always provided excellent training. And actually, when we make the heater, we make it serviceable. So while we're making the heater and while it's going through all these different iterations and design changes and things like that, we're like, well, can someone actually get their hand up in there and turn that screw or that bolt, or, how does this work and how does that go in? And a lot of that thought, went into the AVIA. A lot of VOC that came back from homeowners was for it to have an app. So you actually get an app called Raymote with the AVIA heater. You can, not only can you turn it on and off and change the temperature, and that's great, but if the unit throws a safety switch, it's actually going to text you. So it's going to communicate with you, which is, pretty innovative, because I've never seen a product of that caliber actually being able to send you a message, and now you're being proactive and calling the homeowner saying, hey, I just got a message from your heater saying that the pressure switch went off. You probably need to backwash your filter. Do you want to go back and look at that? Or is that something you want me to come out and make a service call? So, trying to generate revenue, having renewables like the Protec, the anode, that's a renewable. It functions to maintain itself in these harsh environments with all the electrolysis that's happening and all the different chemical issues that are happening with, say, fertilizer runoff and things like that. We're all fighting, these things occurring in the water. The Protec will actually, it acts as a less noble metal. I mean, that's what an anode is. So it's dissolving itself and sacrificing itself instead of the heat exchanger. So we've proven on the Series 22 heater, on the digital gas heater, that it works. So we actually translated that and put that on the AVIA. So it's been very popular. Justin, you have anything to, or throw anything onto the AVIA?
No, yeah. So definitely on the AVIA, you mentioned we have a lot of VOC from the owner, but we also took a lot of VOC in from the trade as well, the builders and the servicers, installers. And, there was a lot of things that they wanted to see. And it was actually pretty interesting. We were at a trade show, and one of the guys came to us, I think it was Western Pool and Spa, and was like, hey, I was one of the guys who gave you feedback. And he's like, and I could see that you guys actually took the feedback and applied it to the heater. And it was like, wow, it's actually pretty cool to see it come full circle. And
for sure,
probably awesome for someone who's like, hey, if you did this to the heater, this would make it a much better product. And then to turn around and see that, 2 years, 3 years later, and see oh, wow, you actually took my advice. And
yeah.
and then now you can apply that to, to the trade, so I think that's one of the things that I'd say, especially within, the last 6 to 7 years, there's been a lot more focus on, what does the industry have to say? What do the users have to say? The people who are working on these products, installing them, and really listening to them and making sure that that we're innovating in a way that's including them in the process. Because we have a history of building products that are great, but there's always room for improvement. And so, sure. and even so, I mean, right now we have our R&D lab is working on something. I won't get too details, but they're developing something right now, like a process, so that way they could take that VOC another step further in our development process when it comes to products. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping at some point we can probably show it online, but it's interesting. It really gets into the minds of the designers during this process, that they can start to envision, the pain points that could potentially be in the field, depending on the way that they're going with the design. And so they kind of helps bring them back into a lane that's going to be able to produce something that's going to be beneficial, to the trade, once the product hits the market. So, and then also to be able to take that and apply that to our legacy products as well. And we can find ways of improving those products and bringing some, some much needed changes. And it's pretty cool. Just that whole mindset of, it's design with intent.
Sure. Yeah, I love that you guys did that. And I remember seeing at the trade show the first time on the van, and kind of the innovation you guys did with that was really awesome to see, and the transition and how the footprint, like you said, obviously the footprint is probably one of the biggest changes on it that you made towards the trade. But I remember seeing it at the trade show and thinking, wow, they actually listened, and same concept, right? I mean, you guys have always made a very, very solid product. So to take that and listen and make it fit on a, pad outside, like in place of some of the others. That was a great idea. But
It will do. Yeah, it's interesting to that point. It is a drop-in replacement heater for Master Temp and for JXI, as long as the JXI has the VersaFlow valve on it. I think it's their automated valve. So same plumbing elevations and same gas connections. So we made it easier on that front. And if you happen to have one of our 1.5 VS pumps, which actually we got into about a year and a half ago, along with some above ground pump filters, you can actually take that VS pump and with a coaxial cable, hook it right into the AVIA, and you'll have full pump functionality. So functionality of all of the programming, timing, all the things that go with that, all the different RPMs. Oh, wow. Then you have an extra auxiliary out of the box that you don't have to pay any more for to hook up a light or a solenoid. So it does have some control capability right as you buy it. Whether you use it or not, that's totally up to you. Sure. It still hooks into everyone's remote, so we still use that 2-wire remote, or we provide a 3-wire pin. But you can go into anyone's remote and just make it an on-off. But let's say that we did a lot of data pulling, and there are a lot of pools out there that do not have control systems.
Right.
So if you need a heater and you want to add controls, and let's say you just want to be able to turn that heater on and off, or hey, you need a pump too, then you can get full functionality just by purchasing that unit. And down the road, it'll be expandable. So we see more for that product. We see more things being plugged into that unit for it to be the control center, really, for everything that's out there. So that's what we're focusing on.
And especially being price conscious to the homeowners, you could do that at essentially half the cost, if you wanted to go and buy a full automation system and a heater. So our intent is to provide more value in our products. The interesting thing too, so Gavin had mentioned, like, you can still tie AVIA into like an automation system, and one of the cool things you could do is, if you do that, you can still set up automations within AVIA, so that they're kind of like a hidden automation that can happen without being affected by the your control panel. And so that's kind of an interesting feature there. So you can't go in there and adjust your temperature because you've given that over to the control system. But if you say you want to have like lights on a timer, you can do that. You can set that up. And that was one of the things I think we found out from VOC, from homeowners, was the two things they want to do. They want to turn on their lights, and they want to change the temperature of their heater. And to have a product out of the box that gives you those two features, to be able to adjust your temperature and allow you to plug in lighting and control them, whether it be just on and off or automation, I think it's huge for the customers out there, again, who don't have that and they want to try that out.
There's a lot of one pump, one filter pools out there still that don't have that automation, or don't necessarily have need for full automation panels and all the bells and whistles, but there's a ton of pools out there that still have the basic installs.
So the app that comes with it is called Raymote, and so it's a little play on Raypak. More the nice, yeah, it is. I know it's a far reach, but we figured, hey, it works. No, we've been mixing in some talk about the commercial world. Well, we've had Raymote on commercial heaters, boilers for a long time, and so when you have a big boiler in the building, and the engineer staff needs to see the functioning of how's it running and what are the issues with it, they're able to actually pull up Raymote on their computer screen. And so one of the transfer technologies is that a dealer, if he has multiple AVIAs out there connected to Wi-Fi, he can actually see all of the heaters on his sheet. So he can be watching all of the heaters, wherever they have them, all at the touch of a button, or on their iPad, however they have it worked out. So
very cool.
It's pretty unique, for a little old pool heater company.
Yeah, it's great. You got to test the technology for a long time before you rolled it out in the AVIA. So very cool. We're going to take another quick break. When we get back, we discuss the many training components that Raypak offers, such as the Elevation Van Tours and the Innovative Learning Centers. This episode of Pool Chasers podcast is also brought to you by The Attendant. The Attendant, powered by Poolside Tech, is the latest in pool automation. Their system offers innovative features and applied intelligence to help it think and communicate with both pool pros as well as the homeowner. It offers features such as syncing your DMX lights to Spotify, built-in water leveling, dirty filter detection, and my favorite, Airbnb mode, which allows a pool owner to grant access to users with restrictions to specific pool features or defining set points for heating events. User access can also expire at a specific time. Best of all, the Attendant is vendor agnostic, so it's compatible with the equipment from existing manufacturers on the market today. Learn more at poolside.tech or check out episode 194 of the podcast. This episode is also brought to you by Primate Pool Tools. Cut through the water with ease with an ultra-strong and super lightweight carbon fiber pole. Primate poles are available in multiple models with length options for every level of service, whether you work on spas or Olympic-sized swimming pools. Their strength makes them ideal for heavy vacuums like Riptide, and their ultra-lightweight makes cleaning any pool easier. All Primate poles are handmade in the USA, come with a commercial warranty, and are even available in custom prints. For more info, click the link below or go to primatepooltools.net. You can also use our special promo code PoolChasers2022 for $20 off. And to learn more about the guys behind Primate Pool Tools, check out episodes 104 and 199. I mentioned the van earlier. Can you guys touch on the sales team and support you guys have for pool professionals?
Sure. Justin, you want to lead it off?
Sure, yeah. So we have 3 of these sales vans that are in the U.S. One in the West Coast, one in the Central, and then one in the East Coast. And the teams drive those around. They'll set up like tour stops at it could be a retail location, it could be a distribution location, and they'll do sometimes they'll do technical trainings on there. Sometimes it's just kind of awareness, talking about products. And the way the vans are set up is you can actually pull. There's a wall that pulls out from the back, and it has a gas side, and so we've got AVIAs on there. And then on the flip side, we've got our heat pump products. So we've got our Classic Series heat pump, and then we've got our Crosswind, which is our side discharge heat pump. So we've got that, and we've got Protege, which is our pumps and filters. So the sales team can talk to the full breadth of the offering, and then tailor it to whatever the servicer or the pool person's interests are. They only deal with gas, that's fine. But what's been cool about that is we've actually had a lot of people who've never seen heat pumps before. Northern Texas was a spot where heat pump is not a thing they talk about, and they were seeing it for the first time on the van. So you talk about you go in and do like a tabletop, and you're like, hey, I've got this product, and you're just showing brochures or whatever it be. And so it's easy to say, no, I don't deal with heat pumps, so the conversation ends. But then when you see the thing in front of you and you're like, well, what's this thing? And it's like, oh, that's a heat pump. Oh, yeah. That's a heat pump? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so it's like, well, what does it do? How does it work? And then once you can see it in front of you and it's not as scary as you might seem, then you can start to talk about it. And then it's like, well, that maybe we could try that. And so there's obviously with the heat pump technology, you're talking about, getting a much higher efficiency out of the amount of energy you're spending, but it's not going to be for everyone. Not everyone wants to have a pool heater that kind of climbs to the right temperature and then maintains itself. Some people want to like turn on the gas and go. So it really, we have not only just products for different applications, but we also have products for different lifestyles. Someone wants their heat, they want it now, they're going to kind of go more towards gas or resistant. Someone wants to be more cost savings with their product, they're probably looking more at a heat pump product. And so the nice thing about the vans is it shows that full offering in a way that also brings some reality to it, because it's when you're looking at a brochure, you're looking at a website, everything is abstract, and people want to see tangible products so that they can get a sense of understanding of what it is, and maybe even be a little bit more opened up to learning about it.
Yeah, so I'd never seen it come out of the back of the van like that either. It's such a cool thing where it slides out.
Yeah.
Cool concept. You guys did that.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in learning more about that, we do have it on our website. So it's raypak.com/elevate /. So raypak.com /elevate, ELEVATE, and then another /.
Yeah, and
It's got pictures. We actually have a calendar posted there. Try to keep it as up to date as we possibly can. We do run it at a lot of distributors, because when we get it to a distributor, it's an easy location for us to park. It's friendly. No one tells us to leave usually.
Right. Yeah.
We'll have food. We'll bring in some Chick-fil-A or whatever wings, whatever we can do. Donuts, depends on the time of day. And so we'll usually hop. We'll usually do a morning session at one distributor and go to another distributor and have an afternoon session. If you have a business where we could get, say, 5 or 10 of your employees to be there at one time, just reach out to your local rep, and then we'll make arrangements for that. The rep will let you know when the van's going to be in their area, because it's literally, just going up and down. I think right now mine's in the Panhandle, just kind of floating around, and maybe in Alabama. So during the shows, we use it for shows too. So we'll bring it in Atlantic City. We'll have, we're at the wall. So we do a lot of training over at the wall, where we'll run a class inside. And then the class then comes out to the wall for the second half, and we'll break down heaters. We'll have digital heaters there, AVIAs, electric heaters. So we make little electric spa heaters, 5.5 kilowatt, all the way up to, we're launching a 3-phase E3T heater. So that'll be, a wide range of electric heaters, and we'll have those there, and we'll have heat pumps. And we used to run a class called Demystifying Heat Pumps, because no one understands how a heat pump works and where it doesn't. So if you have any questions on that, I would be open to, even if you want to do a separate thing on heat pumps, because it's called the electrification of the U.S. And it's basically a movement that's starting on the West Coast and moving its way to the East Coast and hitting points between and up north. Ohio, believe it or not, is actually a pretty big market for heat pumps. Florida is by far and away number one. Texas is growing. But, because of the changes in, the science behind the heat pumps, we're making them more efficient. We're putting things into them where they'll actually run at lower temperatures. So we're always innovating on that front. Heat pumps are really important to us, especially being owned by Rheem, because Rheem makes a lot of air conditioners and a lot of heat pumps. And that was kind of another transfer, kind of like Raypak did from commercial boilers into residential pool heaters and commercial pool heaters. Yeah. Rheem has taken the standard house heat pump and turned it into a pool heat pump just by making a couple different changes in the way that we do things. And as a result, our sales teams need to be really, we keep ourselves, up to date as far as the technology goes. So when we roll out a new product, we make sure the sales team is fully engaged. They fully understand how they function. And really, it's the sales team who also work with our warranty stations to make sure that they know the new products that are rolling out. So there's relationships there between warranty station dealers and then Raypak, because we'll actually, on the heat pump side, we'll dispatch dealers to go out and make a call. Sometimes, it's hard to find a pool dealer because they don't have the HVAC background to go and do it. So sometimes on the heat pump side, we have to use HVAC companies. But on the gas side, we're typically working with dealers. So, if you'd like to be a warranty station for Raypak, make sure you reach out to your local rep and just find out if there's a need there. We'll definitely, have a discussion with you and just talk about, how things work and how we lead share and do different things like that. So we stay very engaged, with the servicers. And, that's kind of the extent of the salesperson, is they're not just there to sell you a pump or a heater and walk away. I mean, they're there to walk you through the process. And then, if you need help, and you can't get through to tech service for whatever reason, you can call your Raypak rep and we're going to help you out. And if we can't help you out right away, just leave a message. They're going to call you right back. So we're going to get you answers as quickly as we possibly can. We're real good about that.
Yeah, I've always felt that commitment to the trade from Raypak and Rheem, and just, anytime you need someone out there, they're pretty quick to get that answer for you. So as I was doing the research, I ran into the Innovative Learning Center you guys had, and I want to just quickly, before we wrap up, kind of talk about that. And, you're also a piece of that commitment to the industry, right? Of training and developing experts, that type of thing. Can you talk on that for a second?
Sure. Justin, you want to lead that off?
Yeah, of course.
Please.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we again, linking back to the relationship we have with Ream, they one of the investments they made within our company within the Raypak business was a innovation learning center, which is what Ream calls this particular facility at our facility in Oxnard. And it's comprised of a lecture room, and then there's kind of like a product area where you can go and look at all the different products, not just ours, but you can look at Ream, you can look at Emacs, so like electric wall hungs. You can look at air conditioning from Ream, and then there's also a component to the center which is live firing. So that's something that we always had at Raypak, but now we could live fire 4 million. Within our, we call it the hot room, hands-on training room. And so technicians can go and sit for the first half of the day in class and kind of learn through some of the specifics of the product and how they work, and then get that hands-on training at the end where they can actually, diagnose issues, or they can do some tear down, especially with AVIA. A lot of people are interested, like, hey, how do you get down to this point? And so they'll get that hands-on training that they're looking for, so that by the time they get out to the field, they have a level of confidence. They've done it before. They've gone through the menu settings. They've set up the Wi-Fi. They've, figured out where the issue was within the safety chain. So that center that we have it's been a great tool to help bring the trade in, and we use it for the boiler side, the water heater side, and the pool side. So we have our own in Oxnard, where our facility is, our headquarters is, but Ream has them all over the country. We've got them in Connecticut, we've got them in Texas, we have one coming online soon in New Jersey, and if there's a few more out. So it gives us the range to be able to to set up those trainings where technicians can come in from different parts of the country to a local area, or they could come into the factory. They can come visit us at Raypak and get a little bit more of a behind the scenes view of our production facility. They get an opportunity to maybe talk with our staff, our technical support manager, our customer experience manager, talk to our engineers. They get to talk to, product management, and it gives them an opportunity to, maybe one, provide feedback directly to us about our products, but then two, learn something about what it entails to build our products, and to build some connections and relationships, so that way when they're back out there in the field, they have kind of a grounding to Raypak.
Yeah.
So that's...
So we actually have 3 different levels of training. So we have level 1 training, which is features, functions, and benefits. Basically, it's a sales pitch, is what level 1 training kind of comes out to be. But we go into a little bit more into that. And level 1, it really occurs on our elevation tour. So when we have someone at the van, we're running through feature, functions, and benefits for each of the products that we're showing. Okay, so that's level 1. Level 2 is installation. So we typically do that in a 4-hour class. Notoriously for us, if we have the ability to use an ILC, we'll do that, and we'll have people come out. Like we have one in Warbury, Connecticut. We're building one, a live fire we're building in South Jersey, but the only live fires are going to be South Jersey and California for now. And we're trying to move toward more live fire facilities where we can actually get gas heaters up and going. The other thing is that, the 4-hour session involves installation. So we make sure we talk about anything that they may see out there in the backyard. How close to an AC is this thing going to be? How is it? Can it go in front of a window? Can it go below a window? Can it, all the different things, indoor installation, things like that. And then level 3 training is actually troubleshooting. So we actually get into a unit and we start talking about, hey, what do we do when this happens? The heater starts shaking around. What do I do first? So we're always, on a site visit. What am I looking for? What information do we need from you before you call into tech service? We're going to need, at minimum, we're going to need gas heater, gas pressure readings on a manometer, and we're going to need the serial number of the heater. The nice thing for us is that we actually, if anyone out there is encountered a problem with, say, Comcast cable or Xfinity, well, at some point the tech just kind of gives up and says, you know what, I'm just going to video call you. I need to look to see how your connections are working here.
Right.
So we'll actually make a video connection with the dealer. And so they'll be out there with their phone and they'll show us what's going on with the unit. And then our tech can actually make some notes on the screen and then convey that information real time, to the dealer. So it needs to be a scheduled event. So if you're going to go out to a heater and you need that help, reach out to either tech service ahead of time. So you can reach out to warranty at raypak.com, or you can reach out to your local sales rep and they'll help set that up for you. But it's a real important tool. And we'll talk about that more, at our training sessions. So typically our training sessions aren't at ILCs. They're usually at hotels. So we'll rent a room and we'll bring in some breakfast and some coffee and stuff like that. And we'll do, a training session. If we do 2 in one day, it's usually a breakdown of, say, level 2 in the morning and level 3 in the afternoon, something like that. And we gauge a lot of it. I mean, we're real quick to pivot. If the room's like, we just want to talk about heat pumps, we'll talk about heat pumps. We'll go into all that stuff, and then we'll do a lot of Q&A. So we're real able to kind of, mold it to, what the people want to say. But we will have a set agenda of what we wanted to talk about. But we're open to change, as long as everybody kind of gets an understanding of that. But it's a really nice resource to have for the towns that have it. For the others that don't, we wind up at a Holiday Inn or, something else like that. So that's been the standard for us over the years.
Yeah, but the main thing is just a commitment to training and getting people to what the tools they need in their hands. I think having that classroom and then being able to go in and break down heaters and touch them, hands-on training, right? Most people in this industry learn by doing, not by listening or seeing, right? They want to touch it and break it down. How do I get to this point of the heater? How do I, fix this piece of it? So, it's really great that you guys offer all that. And I've always respected kind of the way that you guys operate and do things and the level to which you commit to the trade and are available. So all that's
we're working
great.
real hard to make sure we actually have some units that we can bring to training sessions so people can get a screwdriver in their hand and we can start on this new AVIA. It's got fans and different switches on it because that's what you get with a sealed combustion. You want a small heater, it's got to be a little more difficult.
Right.
And so you want air conditioning in your car, you're going to have to deal with this or that, right? It's power windows, same thing. So we're going to get into some units and we're going to take some fans off and get into some combustion chambers and we're going to show you a burner pad and down fired as opposed to up fired on a atmospheric heater. So
Very cool.
So we're excited about it too because everybody likes new stuff. We like new stuff. It's something for us to talk about. So we love to talk about it with you.
And we're continuing to innovate on that too. And the innovation centers are a great way to kind of bring some of that. Like we just recently started talking about this new technology that's rolling out to our AVIA, which is it's called NITEC. And so right now we have our standard, copper heater, and the next evolution would be you're going to have your cupronickel, right? So for your salt pools, harsher conditions, and so we've developed our own technology that is essentially twice as good, actually twice as better.
Twice as resistant.
Twice as
resistant. Twice as amazing.
There you go.
as a cupronickel. You're talking about it's like
you may wonder how we know that.
Yeah, it's like 200% more erosion resistance.
So we have figured out that nickel, which is really what the new material is that nickel is much less resistant to scale buildup. So scale builds up on things that have a rough surface, and the nickel provides a really sleek surface. So don't think it's not scaling up. It's just not scaling up in our heat exchanger. It's going to be leaching itself onto your pool plaster.
Actually, so that was one of the things that that I was looking and talking to engineering about is that because of the surface that it creates, it actually, when we're saying it reduces scale formation by 50%, we're actually reducing the ability for scale to form by 50% because when you, in the normal heat exchanger, especially like a fin tube one, you've got those pockets, where the fin gets pulled out, and so normally water kind of gets trapped in those spaces, and then they heat up to a higher degree, and then that's when you start to get, things dropping out of suspension, your solids. And so by reducing the ability for anything to sit in those pockets, you actually are reducing the scale formation completely, across the board. And so hopefully you won't be seeing it on like your fixtures, your rails, your lights, or on your plaster. You'll be seeing less of it because of this new technology.
Very cool.
So we'll have a standard copper, and then we'll have an upgrade, an HD unit. So if you're building what they call them salt pools, and we all know there's no such thing as a salt pool. It's a chlorine pool with a salt generator, right? A chlorine generator. That may be something that you may want to take a look at. I mean, we have made our copper heat exchangers as bulletproof as they possibly can be with the addition of the Protect Shield. It's pretty hard to make it any more bulletproof than that, right? Something that's going to sacrifice itself for the heat exchanger. But the next step for us is this other technology, right? And so what that also does for us is on these HD units, sometimes when you're using cupronickel is not as efficient as copper. So when you use cupronickel, you'll see that your BTUs are actually derated, and also so is your efficiency. So a lot of heaters that were 84%, when you look at a cupro, they drop to 82 or below. The AVIA will maintain 84% efficient, which is real important for especially states like California that provide discounts for 84% efficient heaters.
Right.
So we are in that category, and we plan to be shipping here at the very end of Q4 or the starting of Q1 of 23. So we're geared up, we're ready, we've tested this thing, and it's ready to roll.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a great conversation, guys. I learned a ton. I think the listeners have learned a ton. Can you just share with us how people can get in touch with you, the website and all that?
Yeah, of course. So our website is raypak.com, RAYPAK. You can get in touch with us through the website. You can reach out to us on social media. We've got accounts on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all under official Raypak. So we're posting on there regularly. We love to hear from people about products and stuff like that. So reach out. You can reach out to us through the direct messages as well. You might see Gavin if you're in the East Coast. You may see him from time to time, especially if you're in the Florida market. We'll be at the International Pool and Spa and Patio Expo in November.
2 weeks.
So we're excited to be there. We're excited to share, obviously night tech with everyone. We're excited to share the new commercial electric heater. So we'll be there. We'll be at the other shows as well, but obviously, November's coming up now.
Yeah.
And then you can also take advantage. We've got promotions that we're running, so you can get right now at distribution until like December 19th, you can get $200 off an AVIA 404 model and $100 off of the 264 model. We have a Try Me promotion.
And we're also running a program on Crosswind. So Crosswind is a side discharge heat pump, which goes up to 60,000 BTUs. It's a variable speed heat pump. Some of the other ways to get a hold of us, I talked about it a little bit earlier. If you have a technical question or if you have a warranty question, you can reach out to warranty@raypak.com. You'll get a case number. You'll want to put in the body of the email, typically the serial number and what kind of issue you're having, and they'll get back to you, especially if it's warranty. They'll get back to you. If you want to get a hold of a local sales rep, you can always ask your distributor, who they are. They know who we are, but you can also get it through the website on where to find a salesperson. You just push in your zip code and it's going to pull up who we are, and it'll give you our email address so you can reach out to us. So we're always available.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes. And once again, guys, thank you for the great conversation. Appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, Pool Chasers. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. To connect with today's guests, including pictures, links, and resources from everything discussed today, you can visit the episode page at poolchasers.com or click the links below. To connect more with us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter by searching @Pool Chasers. If you would like to support the podcast, the easiest and most effective way is to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as share the show or your favorite episode with a friend or on social media. Also, you can get early access to each episode by supporting us through Patreon. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for sharing some of yours with us today.
See you out there, pool chasers.